Dolphins writer, covers the Dolphins for Sports Illustrated, but she said where the Dolphins and Detroit went in different directions. The Miami Dolphins will be going another year without playoff victory while watching the Detroit Lions rebuilding project continue to produce results. This is wild. What a time to be alive when the Detroit Lions at the end of a season are where other writers are going to say, hey, man, yo, at the end of the season, they could have thought about a whole bunch of other things, but they just thought about the Detroit Lions and the Lions way and how they're doing things. It is now the standard. And there's more here that I want to read about this, read from this article, just to be able to lay the groundwork for what we're going to talk about here today. Because we got to get into a little bit of Brad Holmes' appreciation. My dog. Shout out to my bald brother in chief. I appreciate you. And guys, look, get that Brad Holmes appreciation into the chat. We'll definitely be rating the best ones, especially if it's super chat. But I'm going to read a little bit more here. It's pretty cool to listen to this. The Miami Dolphins major rebuilding project, regardless of when anyone wants to assign an official start date, officially might have to be considered a failure at this time, considering the 2024 season ended not only without a playoff spot, but without a winning record. It's particularly disappointing when we look at the overall NFL standings and we see they're at the top. The Detroit Lions, a team that began its own rebuilding project close to the same time as the Dolphins, but they have wildly been successful. Bro, that to me is just like to see that other people are actually paying attention, because it's a hard time to get people to look at anything. Yeah. Cade is putting up magical runs and people are still like, okay. Well, we'll give it something. But the Detroit Lions are not the team that you see others going out there and looking for. And in this article, they continue. This is pretty funny. The ways that they've done it. Yes, the Lions usually have had more picks in recent years, more draft picks than the Dolphins. But why? It's because Miami has been busy giving them away for big-name players. The Dolphins gave up 5 picks to get wide receiver Tyreek Hill, who may just be on his way out. Think about that, which is amazing. And then they go on to say this. While the Pro Bowl isn't the end-all, be-all in judging players, it's incredibly telling that the Lions have selected 8 different players since 2020 who have been selected to the Pro Bowl. And they go down the list of them, from guard Jonah Jackson to Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Aiden Hutchinson, Jameer Gibbs, and Sam Laporta, Brian Branch, and running back DeAndre Swift, even though he's with Philadelphia last season. Yeah. And so it's amazing. Listen to this, man. Just one more here. The Dolphins, during this span, have selected one player who's been selected to the Pro Bowl, and that's QB Tua. That's wild to me. And this is despite the Dolphins having 5 picks in the first 2 rounds in 2020 and 4 picks in the first 2 rounds in 2021. The Detroit Lions are the standard. That is wild. Yeah. And people who are looking at and assessing, because I was told 3-4 years ago that the Dolphins were next level genius. I was told just last year that their offense was something that the NFL had never seen before. Nobody can do anything with this offense. And now all of a sudden, no matter what you think of their coach individually, no matter what you could think of any of their individual players, that organization ain't right. No, they haven't been. You see where they are right now. The Detroit Lions continue to be the one, no matter what people try to do to dismiss them, that just continue to do things the right way. And it's not just, we could talk about Sheila and Chris Spillman and Disner, and they get a lot of credit, obviously. But when we kind of focus things on the vision, the singular vision of the general manager, Brad Holmes, is where you just see this thing has been absolutely ignited, because there's been belief in GMs in the past, and they've consistently let down the ownership in the front office group. Brad Holmes has been the guy that's been an absolute visionary now, to the point that when you contrast it up against another team that was getting all of the roses laid out for them, the Dolphins were getting everybody. They were media darlings. Everyone thought that they were next up. And now people have to swallow this one hard pill in just a few short years. Bro, we're heading in the opposite direction while the Lions are at the top.
It's crazy, man. We are the model organization now. And if you look back at the Lions' history, that's just something that I never thought I would see. Even if they became a winning team, them to be the best organization in football, it's crazy to me. And success normally isn't linear, but with the Lions, it has been. You look at when Brad and Dan first got in here, 3-13-1 that first year. Then you go from that to 9-8. Then you go from that to 12-5 in an NFC Championship appearance. And now you sit this year, 15 wins, most in franchise history. You're the #1 seed in the NFC, and you look like you have a clear path to the Super Bowl. Like it's just the job that Brad Holmes has done is just, it's been amazing. And he literally gave us the timeline. He said in 3 years we will have this shit together. And by all accounts they did, but that's not easy to do, man. You got to be able to trust your acumen. You got to be able to trust that the people you're bringing in here is going to be able to help move this thing forward. You got to trust that you're taking a chance on a guy like Jared Goff, who was discarded by another team, but I was there in the draft process. I kind of know what this kid is capable of. So I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to take a first round pick, and I'm going to take Jared Goff off your hands, and we're going to see if we can run the team this way. And so far, so good. You look at the draft picks. All of these first, second, and third year players have been directly responsible for the Lions' success. So, I mean, Brad Holmes, just for what he's done, it being cerebral in terms of free agency, being shrewd in the draft and who he wants to select, going against the grain, against what many of the media said. Why are you picking this player so high? Oh, that doesn't coincide with positional value. And he just said, F that, man. I'm going to do what the hell I want because I know the vision I have for this team.
Right now.
I know the vision I have for this team, and I'm going to execute. And he has executed at every step of the way, and you got to give him credit for that, man.
You have to. And that's the thing. Like, as soon as I saw that article, it was interesting to me because it wasn't just a positive affirmation for what the Detroit Lions have done this season in a vacuum. This was positive affirmation for who they are as an entire franchise, as an entire organization, as an entire trendsetter. We know that even the Washington Commanders, who have had some good success this season, they plucked some people from the Detroit Lions front office organization over the offseason to be part of what they were going to foundationally be able to build upon. And it's an interesting thing, man. 3-13-1 to have your foundation, even at your worst, still be 3-1-3 is pretty dope when you just think about it. But Brad Holmes, the energy that you see from him out there on the field, even in games, to see him be that involved, he's engaged, and it matters. And you said it right, man. It's shot callers. These are the things that have continued to instill the faith. When he said they're building for longevity, we already understood it. Yes, they want to be able to. The reason why we can sit here and say next year they're going to be like this, they're going to be that, because of how he builds. But the reason why they've been able to overcome every single aspect of injury, every single aspect of, they're going to throw Brian Branch out the game, or some of these teams are going to scheme up some different things that we might not have prepared for, or you know what, we're going to have to overcome. Realistically, our MVP, Jared Goff, getting a little bit of turnover prone, but we're still going to have the moxie. We're still going to have the character to be able to overcome those things. And it's the identity of the players that they bring in, whether it's through the draft or the specific, vets that they bring in the offseason or via trade to be able to complement this thing. It is a masterclass. We talk about Ben Johnson. We talk about Aaron Glenn. We talked about, is it the personnel? And all we've seen, honestly, Brad Holmes do in about 3 years is realistically take each one of these kind of units, and he's turning them each into elite units with long term. Like, I'm not worried about, man, are we going to be able to keep this up? I'm not. Think about what he did to the offensive line first. Understanding, I got to win in the trenches on one side. Then he went to the defensive line. Then all of a sudden he was like, you know what? Secondary. And then bing, bing, bing. People didn't know. Why are you taking J-Mo? But it was like his vision. Like you already called it. I don't care about what y'all think. Maybe you guys wanted, all of us wanted to see J-Mo get flying sooner. But right now, we see that the vision that he has set forth is the one that we should just strap in and say, you know what? Just Brad Holmes, whatever you're doing, brother, we're along for the car ride, man.
He earned that cachet, and there was so many ways he could have came into the situation and failed. Just think, you coming into the Lions, the worst organization at that point in all of professional sports. You come in, you got to trade your franchise quarterback of 12 years who has laid it all on the line for this team, but had no success, no playoff, no nothing, no division, no nothing. You got to trade him. So think of how that could have went sour. You bringing in a guy like Jared Goff. If he didn't pan out, then that looks away. What was the Lions' reputation in terms of draft picks? Oh, they never lived to see their second contract. The curse of the second round pick, they never pan out. And Brad Holmes turned that on his head. I'm going to pick the players that I want, and they're going to come in here and they're going to be able to execute. And it started with Penei Sewell, and just ever since that day, he has just hit after hit after hit after hit. And yes, he hasn't hit on absolutely everything, but I think 90% is pretty goddamn
That's a
good if
good
you ask
ass
me.
track record.
So I mean, there were so many ways where this guy could have just came in here and this shit could have went south, but he stayed steady to his vision,
Get me fired
and
up, bro.
it came back on the other side of it, man.
It did. Kavasi and Chase GPT. What up, though, man?
I mean, I think we should all just admit, like, Brad Holmes is smarter than me, smarter than you, he's smarter than all of us. Like, the man, like, time and time again, like, year after year, just continues to, zig to everyone else's zag, do things his own way, and every single time he's proven to be right. He just knows something we don't.
Yep.
Whether or not he can see things we can't, whether or not he's got that sixth sense like Bruce Willis, and he's just, he can see the good players, secretly, there's a ghost whisper in his ear like Patrick Swayze. I don't know what it is, what he's got, but I mean, the man is just locked in. And, like, honestly, usually they say a genius isn't often recognized until after they're gone. But I think we should sit down and recognize we got a master class, a real next level genius in roster building in the NFL with Brad Holmes.
Chase, man, like, he even at points had to tell the fans to shut the fuck up. Because there were times where we're like, well, why did you sign this player? Well, why did you trade for this player? And he came to the podium and said, look, we have a plan. It may not be what y'all think it's going to be, but we're not trying to win March, April, and May. We trying to win November, December, and January. And ever since that day, man, like, I just backed off. Like, you got it, big dog. You got it. You got it. You got it, bro.
What up, JB Smooth?
Hey, what's going on? Shout out to Burn in the super chat once again, sitting in $5.
Shout out.
He says, I don't give a S. I'll say it right. I don't give a shit what the national media says. Those bums spent 2 weeks underselling the Legion of Boom and how they had no chance against Denver. And also Ryan's reaction for a $4.99 super chat as well too. He says, is this team the most overlooked 15-2 team ever? Kirby snubbed, Ragnow snubbed, Goff snubbed, Gibbs snubbed, Tim Patrick snubbed as well too.
I'm starting to believe that Dan Campbell, is somewhere underneath an alias named, something different like Man Mamble.
Mamble.
What is this? People like, hey, don't vote for my guys, because if the recipe works, I'm not really trying to upset that apple cart. When you want to piss off this Detroit Lions team, and now you get them 2 weeks to prepare, 2 weeks to stew, and we know that they're hearing it, and we're gonna, it's so appropriate. It's so appropriate. You know what? I want to play the DJ Reader clip when we get back. This is so appropriate because.